Welcome back to Random History. I'm your navigator as we explore the little-known events and people that make history such an amazing subject. The events I delve into are probably not ones you learned about in school. These are the ones that when you do hear about them, you're likely to think that could not possibly be real. But they are. Every year that I taught world history, I would spend some time talking about the origins of various things. Songs, idioms, sayings, names of places, surnames, that kind of thing. I have to tell you that the look on students' faces when they realize that a song or game that they played as little kids talks about dying from the plague, well, I gotta say it is rather entertaining. I just discussed this with my AP World History class last week and decided that I was going to devote an entire episode to the origins of some of these idioms. Also this week, I heard that a famous pop star decided to endorse a specific candidate for president. And I thought, who cares what you think about politics? Well, this just reinforced the importance of celebrating true heroes. People who put their lives on the line to either save others or protect our liberties and way of life. The true hero I selected for this episode was one of my childhood heroes, a fellow aviator who, like me, is also from Ohio, but unlike me, was America's ace of aces in World War I. His name is Captain Eddie Rickenbacker. And so now, without further ado, Random History presents the history of some idioms and Captain Eddie Rickenbacker. Idiomatic expressions are a fascinating part of language, allowing people to convey ideas, emotions, and situations through colorful, often figurative language. Expressions like, "it's raining cats and dogs," are ingrained in everyday speech, yet the origins often remain mysterious or even misunderstood. Today we explore the history and origins of some common sayings like, "it's raining cats and dogs," investigating where they came from, how they evolved, and their lasting impact on the English language. The phrase, "it's raining cats and dogs," is one of the most popular idiomatic expressions used to describe heavy rainfall. Despite its widespread use, its origins are murky, with several competing theories. One popular explanation suggests that in the 17th and 18th century England, heavy rainstorms would flood streets, often sweeping dead animals like cats and dogs into the gutter, making it appear as though they had fallen from the sky. This interpretation, while colorful, lacks substantial historical evidence. Another theory traces the phrase back to Norse mythology. In Old Norse, the dog is associated with storms, specifically the wind god Odin, who was often depicted accompanied by dogs or wolves. The cat in this interpretation symbolizes heavy rain, as it was linked to the storm goddess Freya. This theory ties the imagery of cats and dogs to the forces of nature rather than literal animals. A third possible origin comes from a more literal explanation. In the Middle Ages, the roofs of homes were often covered in thatch, bundles of long grass tied together. This thatch often became the home of different varieties of vermin, like mice, rats, or even birds. To keep these critters from falling through and into the home, people allowed their cats and dogs to prowl the roof hunting these pests. In a heavy rainfall, the thatch would become very slick, and the dogs or cats would lose their footing and fall off the roof, appearing to fall from the sky. Another idiomatic expression, rather colorful, describes someone as being dirt poor. This often comes from the average home of medieval times. The floor was often simply bare earth with the structure of the home built around it. To keep it from becoming a muddy mess whenever it rained, people would purchase thresh, the waste from milling wheat. The thresh would then be spread around the floor, keeping the inside of the house from looking like the outside of the house. If they couldn't afford the thresh, then their floor was simply dirt, hence the phrase dirt poor. This actually leads us to another term. Because they needed to purchase the thresh, they did not want it to be tracked or blown outside whenever anyone came or went through the door. So they would place a board across the entrance to hold the thresh in place. So this became the threshold of the house. To break the ice is commonly used to describe initiating a conversation or easing a tense situation, but its origins date back to early maritime navigation. In the age of exploration, ships would sometimes get stuck in the ice, making it impossible to continue sailing forward. Before steam-powered icebreakers were invented, smaller boats would sail in to break the ice around a larger vessel to create a passageway for it to sail through. Over time, the literal act of breaking ice became a metaphor for overcoming an awkward or challenging situation, leading to the modern usage. The metaphorical use of break the ice appears as early as the 16th century. Sir Thomas North's 1579 English translation of Plutarch's Lives includes a reference to breaking the ice in a diplomatic context, where easing tensions between adversaries was akin to navigating a ship through frozen waters. Today, the phrase is most often used in social contexts, referring to starting a conversation or making people feel more comfortable in a new or formal setting. The phrase, bite the bullet, means to endure a painful or difficult situation with courage. Its origins can be traced to the brutal reality of battlefield surgery during the 18th and 19th centuries. In the absence of anesthetics, soldiers who underwent surgery or even amputation were often given a bullet to bite down on in order to distract them from the pain and prevent them from crying out or thrashing about. This practice was most common during the Napoleonic Wars and the American Civil War, where medical tools and treatments were rudimentary at best, and many soldiers faced excruciating operations with little to no pain relief. Interestingly, an earlier version of the phrase, chewing a bullet, appeared in Rudyard Kipling's 1891 novel, The Light That Failed, where it referred to facing a hardship or emotional pain. By the early 20th century, bite the bullet had entered popular usage to describe any situation where one must summon the strength to face something unpleasant. The phrase, to let the cat out of the bag, means to reveal a secret, often unintentionally. This phrase is believed to have originated in medieval markets, where merchants would sometimes try to cheat customers by substituting a cat for a piglet in a sack. If a customer discovered the trick and opened the bag to let the cat out, the fraudulent act was exposed. The phrase's usage dates back to the 16th century, though there are variations in different cultures, many of which involve the concept of exposing a hidden truth or deception. In a broader sense, letting the cat out of the bag represents the moment when something hidden is brought to light, with the cat symbolizing the unwelcome truth that can no longer be contained. This vivid imagery of the phrase has allowed it to endure in modern English, continuing to convey the idea of a secret slipping out, often at a most inopportune moment. The phrase, to burn the midnight oil, means to work late into the night, often associated with studying or completing a difficult task. Its origin dates back to a time before electric lighting, when people relied on oil lamps to illuminate their homes and workplaces. Staying up late to read, write, or work would often require burning oil well into the night, thus giving rise to the expression. The phrase was popularized in literature during the 17th century, with notable usage in John Milton's Comus and Francis Quarles' Emblems, where the concept of burning oil at night is linked to scholarly pursuits and intellectual labor. Today, burning the midnight oil is often used to describe late-night efforts to meet deadlines or finish important projects, preserving its association with diligence and hard work. Another phrase that we use quite commonly is saved by the bell. This describes being rescued from a difficult situation at the last moment. While the phrase is most often associated with boxing, where a bell signals the end of a round and can prevent a knockout, its origins may lie in a more morbid historical practice. During the 17th and 18th centuries, fear of being buried alive was widespread, leading some people to be buried with a string attached inside their coffin to a bell above ground. If they were accidentally buried while still alive, they could ring the bell to alert those above and be saved from premature burial. This also led to another expression, the graveyard shift. In order to hear the bell, someone had to stand watch overnight so they could hear if it was rung. Today, the graveyard shift is the overnight shift. Fortunately, it no longer requires sitting in a deserted cemetery overnight. The origins of idiomatic expressions like "it's raining cats and dogs" offer fascinating glimpses into the history, culture, and imagination of the English-speaking world. These sayings, often rooted in the practices, superstitions, and daily life of past centuries, have evolved over time while retaining their colorful imagery and metaphorical meanings. Whether derived from mythology, historical events, or the practical realities of life, idiomatic expressions enrich language by allowing speakers to convey complex ideas in simple yet very vivid terms. The persistence of these phrases in modern English demonstrates their enduring power and relevance. Although their literal meanings may have been lost or changed, their figurative impact continues to shape the way we communicate, revealing the deep connections between language, history, and human experience. I hope after listening to this podcast, you won't give me the cold shoulder. I could tell you the background of that idiom, but I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. Before I get into today's true hero, I neglected to relay one of the stories that I teased in my introduction. That is the story of the song that we all sung as children that talks about the Black Death. To understand this song, you need to know the sequence of symptoms that develop with the bubonic plague. The first symptom is that the subject would get a ring-shaped rash, kind of pinkish in color, on their body. Then the skin around that would begin to die, or necrosis would set in. Now, dead skin, dead flesh, rots and doesn't smell very good. So they would stuff their pockets full of flowers to hide the smell. The next major symptom would be that their skin would become kind of a grayish or ash colored. And finally, before you know it, the patient falls down dead. So if you haven't figured it out yet, it would be ring around the rosy, pockets full of posies, ashen, ashen, we all fall down. It is a bit on the morbid side, but hey, they're kids. And it was the reality of life during the Middle Ages. And now we move on to hopefully happier things. And that is today's True Hero segment. Today's True Hero has been a hero of mine since I was a little kid. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, the heart of aviation. Not only was it the home of the Wright brothers, but also the home of the National Museum of the Air Force. Except in Dayton, we just call it the Air Force Museum. As a kid, I practically lived at the museum. I spent hours just wandering among these amazing aircraft that really won 2 wars for the United States and kept the peace throughout the Cold War. Among the countless artifacts of military aviation was a short biography of another Buckeye that became America's leading ace. An ace is a person who has shot down 5 enemy aircraft during war. Anyway, this was America's leading ace during World War I. He had 26 enemy planes shot down, and his name was Eddie Rickenbacker. Eddie Rickenbacker was a pioneering figure in American aviation, who became one of the most decorated American fighter pilots during World War I. His exploits in the skies over Europe, particularly his exceptional bravery and skill, earned him the Medal of Honor. Rickenbacker's journey to becoming America's top fighter ace and a national hero is a story of determination, skill, and daring. Born in 1890, Rickenbacker's love for speed and mechanics began early. Before the war, he gained fame as a race car driver, competing in the Indy 500 multiple times. When the United States entered World War I in 1917, Rickenbacker initially joined the U.S. Army as a driver for high-ranking officers. His experience with automobiles soon got him noticed, but his real passion lay in flying. He saw the potential for the relatively new field of aviation and wanted to be part of it. Despite being older than most aviator recruits, he was determined to become a pilot. His persistence paid off, and after completing flight training, he was assigned to the 94th Aero Squadron, famously known as the Hat in the Ring Squadron, due to its insignia. While Rickenbacker's Medal of Honor was not the result of a single action, but the culmination of his sustained bravery and leadership in combat. In total, he achieved 26 aerial victories, making him America's leading ace of World War I. His skill in dogfights, his tactical understanding of aerial warfare, and his remarkable leadership made him stand out among his peers. The specific event for which he was awarded the Medal of Honor took place on 25 December 1918. During this mission, Rickenbacker single-handedly attacked the formation of 7 German planes. Despite being heavily outnumbered, he managed to shoot down 2 enemy planes and force the others to retreat. His fearless aggression and skill in this engagement epitomized his combat prowess and his ability to remain calm under pressure. The significance of this achievement lies in the context of World War I aerial combat. Unlike modern warfare, World War I pilots flew fragile, open cockpit biplanes that were often unreliable and provided little to no protection. They were made of canvas-covered wood. Dogfights were intensely personal, close-quarters engagements where pilots' lives depended on the quick reflexes and precise control of their aircraft. Rickenbacker's ability to not only survive but excel in these brutal conditions was a testament to his skill and courage. The odds he faced on that September day were immense, yet he managed to emerge victorious, further cementing his reputation as a fearless pilot. Rickenbacker's Medal of Honor was awarded to him by President Herbert Hoover in 1930, over a decade after the war ended. Though initially overlooked for the prestigious award, his extraordinary contributions were eventually recognized. In addition to the Medal of Honor, Rickenbacker received numerous other awards, including the Distinguished Service Cross, 8 times, the French Croix de Guerre. His legacy as a fighter pilot is not just about the number of enemy planes he shot down, but also about his role as a leader and mentor to other pilots. Eddie Rickenbacker's exploits in World War I are a defining chapter in the history of American aviation. His courage, tenacity, and unmatched skill in aerial combat earned him a place among the most revered figures in military history. He remains a symbol of American bravery and determination, inspiring generations of aviators who followed in his footsteps. This brings us to the end of episode 8 of Random History. I hope you enjoyed the program. As always, this was a lot of fun for me to research and write. I hope you'll continue listening to my future episodes, and if you want, you can use the link in the podcast description to view sources, transcripts, and even submit a request for stories that you'd like to hear on an upcoming episode. Until next time, go out and make some history of your own. Navigator out.